for this tutorial, you'll be using a number 3 DK weight yarn. Personally, I will be using the Hobie Friends cotton silk print, which is made with cotton and silk fiber. If you would prefer a different fiber content, feel free to grab any type of acrylic, wool, etc. But personally, I love these for a pair of shorts. Next, you'll also need a 4.0 millimeter crochet hook. I would highly suggest using some elastic threading or some string, but if you don't have any elastic, you can also opt to use an I-cord or a basic chain. And then lastly, you'll need the basic notions such as a darning needle and a pair of scissors. So let's go ahead and show you guys what I will be using with the elastic threading. Before I begin crocheting these shorts, I do want to pre-prep my elastic threading. So what I'm going to do is take that elastic string and wrap it comfortably around my lower waist. This is personally where I would like the top of the shorts to sit. I'm just going to use a quick pen to mark the 2 spots where I would like my little tie to be. So once I have that measured out, go ahead, cut your strand and tie a knot exactly where you would like the fit of your shorts to be. To begin working on these shorts, I'm going to take the tail end of my yarn and create a very basic slip knot. So there we have it. I can insert my hook, and now we can begin by working on the waist section. To create these shorts, I need to start off by creating a very basic chain, and I do want this chain to wrap around the widest portion of my hip area. For me, that's going to be more towards the center of my butt, so make sure that you are picking the widest portion of your body, and then double check that this does fit you perfectly. So again, just take this chain and wrap it completely around the circumference of your lower hip or waist area. So now that I have my super long chain that is long enough to wrap around the circumference of my hips, what I'm going to do is straighten out this chain, and all I want to do is connect my very last chain to my very first chain with a slip stitch. So I have my chain all straightened out. I'm going to pick up that very first chain in the row, and all I'm going to do is yarn over and slip stitch these 2 ends together. So now my work is officially joined in the round, and we can begin working on the belly band. So what I'm going to do after my slip stitch is chain 3, and this chain of 3 is going to count as my very first double crochet in the row. So next I'm just going to yarn over, look for the next little chain space, but I am going to make sure to turn my work so I can pick up that back bump. So I've picked up the back bump, and now we can go ahead and work my first double crochet in the row. So there we have it. And at this point I can go ahead, yarn over and look for each next available chain space. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up that back bump and work a regular double crochet. So for row 1 of the belly band, all I'm doing is working 1 double crochet into each chain space available. So far, this is what row 1 of my little waistband is looking like. And as you can see, I have made it all the way back around to my chain 3. So here, after my very last double crochet, all I'm going to do is slip stitch into the very top of that chain 3. So I've just picked up the 2 top loops on that chain of 3, and now I can just go ahead and slip stitch the end of my row together. And now for row 2, all I'm going to do is chain 3, and I can go ahead and turn my work. And because this chain of 3 counts as the very first double crochet, I'm going to look at the next stitch available and work 1 double crochet into the 2 top loops. So here for row 2, it's going to be as easy as working 1 double crochet into each stitch across your entire row. So I'm just going to yarn over, look for my next available stitch, and work a double crochet. And again, yarn over, look for the next stitch, and work a double crochet. And now that I've made it back here to the very end of row 2, once again, I'm just going to slip stitch into the 3rd turning chain. So I've just picked up that little turning chain, and now I can go ahead and slip stitch the end of row 2 shut. So at this point, this is what my little belly band is looking like. And I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this process 2 more times so that I have a total of 4 rows. So at this point, I officially have 4 rows of double crochet worked in the round. And what I want to do now at this point, I'm just going to remove my little hook so that I can show you guys my method. What I'm going to be doing is folding these 4 rows in half on top of each other, just like so. So what I'm going to do is grab my little elastic threading or band that I created, and what I want to do is sandwich this in between the 4 rows. So I've just taken my little elastic thread and I'm going to insert it in between those 4 rows, and then I can just kind of close it up like this. Kind of think of it like a little sandwich. And once I have my hook reinserted, all I'm going to be doing is slip stitching the open edges of the band together. So I'm going to pick up each available stitch on both sides of my panel and then slip stitch it shut across the whole way, making sure to keep my little elastic band snuggled up inside. Picking up right here at the end of my 4th row, I'm just going to chain 1. And now at this point, I can go ahead and turn my work a little bit, and we're gonna grab that elastic threading. We're just gonna sandwich it in between like this. And then to go ahead and connect the 2 edges of the band together, I'm just gonna look for my next available stitch and pick up the innermost loop. So there's 1 stitch. And then here on the back side, I'm also gonna look for the next available stitch and go ahead and pick up that loop as well. And for this part, I'm honestly just gonna single crochet. You can also slip stitch if that's easier for you, but I think the single crochet adds just a little bit more wiggle room so that it's not super tight. So again, I'm just gonna kind of stretch my work apart, look for my next stitch, and pick up the innermost loop. And then likewise on the back side, I'm also gonna pick up that little strand right there. So the next available stitch, and then we can single crochet. So with each stitch, you just wanna make sure that your strand, your elastic threading is still in between. So for the rest of this little band, all I'm gonna do is look for the next available stitch and pick up the innermost loop. Make sure that you open up your work and find the matching stitch on the back side or the next available stitch. And then I can single crochet these 2 ends together. I'm almost done connecting my band in the round, and I still have a few more stitches, so I'm just gonna go ahead and finish that up now. But again, I'm just grabbing the innermost loops on the back and the front, and then single crocheting them together. And then now to go ahead and connect our row in the round, I'm just gonna pick up that chain 1 from the start of the row, but I'm also gonna pick up a little bit of fiber on that back panel as well, so that it's kind of even all the way around, and slip stitch it shut. So that is the end of connecting the band in the round, and as you can see with that elastic in there, it does give it just a little bit of wiggle room so that it kind of like cinches in on your waist. So let's go ahead and move on to the body of the shorts. For row 1, I'm going to chain my 3 and turn my work. And what I want to do now is look for each available stitch and work 1 double crochet. So here is my first single crochet, and I'm just going to pick that up and work a double crochet. And again, yarn over, look for the next available stitch. I am picking up both 2 top loops, and we can go ahead and work another double crochet. And that's gonna be it, honestly, for the majority of these shorts. Again, we're just gonna find every single stitch in the row and work 1 double crochet. And as mentioned earlier, because these shorts are more stretched to fit, and we have already created this to the widest portion of our body, we don't have to work any increases or any decreases. I'm simply going to be working just additional rows for extra length. But this is what row 1 of the shorts body is going to look like. And of course, once you come around to the very end of your row and you've worked your very last stitch, go ahead and slip stitch into your 3rd turning chain. So as you can see, I'm almost done here with row 1, and I still have 1 more stitch. So I'm just gonna pick up that very last single crochet and work my double. And then of course we do need to connect this in the round. So I'm gonna pick up the chain 3 at the very start of the row, and I can go ahead and slip stitch that row closed. So that is the end of row 1 for the body. And now for rows 2, 3, and so on, I'm just gonna follow these same steps. So what I'm gonna do is chain 3 and turn my work. And now at this point, I can look for my next available stitch and work a double crochet directly into that. So this is technically my 2nd stitch in the row because we have that chain of 3. And again, just look for each available stitch and work 1 double crochet across your entire row. So I've taken a little bit of time to add on several more rows to my shorts, and so far this is what they're looking like. So for my own body size, I've chosen to go with a total of 17 rows of the double crochets. And again, the total of 17 rows does count after I have single crocheted the little band together. Because I am going for more of like a super micro short. From the very top of these shorts to the very last row, I have exactly 7.5 inches. So this is where I'm going to choose to stop, is at my 7.5. But of course, if you guys want a more high rise short, feel free to add on more rows. So at this point, our very next task is to create a chain that runs from the back side of the panel and then connects over here to the very front. So what I like to do is just kind of lay out my shorts as flat and even as possible. And what I want to do is try to align my chain 3s at the start of the row. Hopefully you guys are kind of able to see that chain 3. I want to center this as best as possible. Another little trick that you can do is use a measuring tape to measure from one edge of the shorts all the way to the other. So for me, that is 17.5 inches across. And then I want to find my middle point. So that's about 8.75 inches. And I just want to get my chain right at that center portion. And again, once I start creating a little chain, somewhere around 10 to 15, maybe even 20 chains, I'm going to connect it from here to the front side of the panel. And again, just use your measuring tape to find that center point or that center stitch. So for me, that's going to be like right here. So let's go ahead and create the chain. I'm going to pick back up at the end of my 17th row. And again, this is just where I have slip stitched into the top of the chain 3. So at this point, I'm just going to start to eyeball how long of a chain I want to create. For me, this is going to be around like 10 to 15 chains. And I do want you guys to keep in mind that the longer of a chain that you create, you're also going to be adding more height and more rise to your shorts. So as you can see, we're kind of like extending these rows a little bit, but at the same time, with the longer chain, you're also going to create a wider leg circumference. So I kind of want to find the happy middle ground where it's not too long and it's not too short, that it's kind of constricting my private parts. Create a starting chain and connect it to the other side of your panel. And then at that point, you're just going to want to try on the shorts and make sure that that chain is not too tight, but that it's also not too long. So now that I have my basic chain of 15, I'm just going to open up my shorts and find the center stitch on the back panel or on the front side of the shorts. As you can see, I kind of marked it with these stitch markers so that it's easier to find and I don't have to like do all this math last second. So I'm just going to take my chain and insert directly into that stitch. And from here, I'm just going to slip stitch the chain to the front side of the panel. So if I kind of pull on my work and tighten up, this is roughly what your shorts should look like. Again, we just have that chain going from the back side to the front side. And now as you can see, we are gonna have 2 separate sections to crochet onto. So here in a moment, I'm going to start working on one leg in the round and then just kind of keep turning your work at the end of every single row. And then once this portion is done, go ahead, attach your yarn over onto this side. And then again, just start crocheting back and forth in the round. I'm just gonna go ahead, try them on, make sure that I have a nice snug fit, and then from there we can move on. So at this point, now that I have my chain attached and ready to go, what I'm gonna do is start working on one leg in the round. And again, I am gonna turn my work at the end of every single row. So picking up right here after my slip stitch with the chain, I'm gonna start off with my chain of 3. And again, this does count as our very first double crochet in the row. But to get going, I do wanna yarn over and place 1 extra double crochet directly into this stitch right here. I just find that this little technique helps to eliminate a little bit of a gap or like see-throughness at the crotch section, which is kind of important. We kind of need this to be like more opaque and not see-through. So now after this stitch right here, I'm just going to yarn over and begin placing 1 double crochet into the top of every single stitch. So just find your next available stitch, insert and work a double crochet, and again another double crochet, and just repeat this for the entire leg round. And we're even going to be placing the double crochets across our chain, but I'll come back on camera to show you guys how I work that. So just start working around your leg circumference. I'm almost at my little crotch chain right here, so I'm just gonna finish up the very last few stitches. So again, just 1 double crochet all the way, in the round. And now that I'm approaching the little chain 3 sections where we were turning our work, I'm honestly just gonna add 1 extra double crochet directly into this space right here. So I'm just gonna pick up the little chain 3 section and place 1 extra double crochet. And again, this is just a little technique that I use to kind of eliminate the gap right here where we join the two like little leg sections. So at this point, now I am officially at my chains for the crotch. I'm just gonna yarn over, pick up a little strand from each of the chains and place 1 double crochet into each chain space. So looking for my next little spot right here. It's a little bit tight, but I'm just gonna wiggle in there and pick up that stitch and work a double crochet. So because I have a chain of 15, I should also have 15 double crochet that run across this little crotch section. But take your time and make sure that you are picking up the right chain spaces. So work across your little crotch section. And now that I've reached the very end of my little chain section and I have worked my very last double crochet, I'm just gonna go ahead and slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. So again, this is just the start of the row of that chain 3 and then slip stitching the row shut. But this is the end of row 1 for the legs. So as you can see, we're starting to work on that one little section. And now that we have finished row 1 for the legs, I can go ahead, reinsert my hook. I'm gonna chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and go ahead and turn my work over. So now here for the start of row 2, I'm going to be working back across the chain, and then I can go ahead and continue working on the rest of the leg. So just to go ahead and show you guys what the rest of this little leg section is going to look like, I have my chain of 3 at the very start of my row. I'm going to yarn over, look for the next available double crochet, and work 1 double crochet into the top of every single stitch. So again, right here, I'm just working back across the little chain crotch section. And now that I have my crotch section all done, I'm just going to continue to work the 1 double crochet in the round. And once I work my very last stitch, go ahead and slip stitch into the top of your chain 3. So at this point, just continue to add on as many rows as you would prefer for your little micro shorts. You could make these like a casual fit, a little bit longer, or you can keep them kind of like nice and short like I am going to. I'm probably going to aim to add on another like 3 or so rows so that I have about 5 or 6 rows in total for each leg. And then I can go ahead, try the shorts on, kind of determine if I need to frog my work, take away less rows, or if I need to add on a few more rows for length. But so far, this is what the little leg section is looking like. And again, once I'm done with one leg, I can go ahead, attach my yarn at either side of the shorts, and then just repeat the same process of 1 double crochet in the round for the whole leg. So I've just got done adding on a few more rows to one of the legs, and this is how the short should be looking. It does look a little bit funky until you start working on the other leg, but this is a really good kind of like estimate of what your shorts should look like. For my shorts, because I do want them to be a little bit shorter, I only went with a total of 5 rows of the double crochets after I attached my little chain. But at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and start working on the other leg. So I wanted to show you how I kind of start this process. I still need to detach my yarn and finish off this leg. So after my little slip stitch into the top of the chain 3, I'm just going to grab some scissors, leave a nice long tail so that I have enough room to kind of like weave in the ends. And at this point, I'm just going to pull through my yarn and tie off a knot. Now, when it comes to reattaching your yarn for the second leg hole, you can honestly attach it at either side, but I think I'm just going to start my work right here so that my chain 3s kind of line up on the front side. What I'm going to do is reattach my new yarn right here at the very start of the little crotch chain. Again, this is kind of where the crotch chain and the leg or the body of the shorts are separated. You can kind of insert anywhere, but I think I'm just going to go right here into this little center part and attach my yarn. And now at this point that I have it tied onto a little knot, I'm gonna pull up a loop and chain 3, 2, 3. So again, the chain 3 does count as my very first double crochet, but just like we did with the other leg, I do want to place 1 extra double crochet right here at the start of my crotch chain to eliminate the little bit of a gap. So I'm just gonna come right here. I'm just gonna pick up honestly any little spot that I can kind of wiggle my hook into. So I've just inserted, pulling up a loop and working my second double crochet. So this is now the start of the second leg hole, but again, this is going to be row 1. And just like we did with the other leg, I'm going to be picking up every single stitch across my crotch chain. It's a little bit easier to see now because I do have the double crochets on the other side of the panel. So I'm just going to look for my next available stitch, insert, and work my next double crochet. And again, moving on to the next stitch, pick up the base of that and work another double crochet. So again, now that I have worked across the crotch chain, I do want to start working on the other leg portion. But once again, I'm just going to add 1 extra double crochet, honestly, wherever you can wiggle it in. And again, this extra double crochet just helps to eliminate that little bit of a gap. So I'm just going to find a little piece that I can grab onto and work the extra double crochet. So there we have it. And now at this point, I can just go ahead and continue on with working 1 double crochet into the top of every single stitch. So I am picking up both 2 top loops, and wherever you have a double crochet, just pick it up and work that stitch like normal. And now at this point, we are simply repeating row 1 of the leg section. So just continue adding on your basic rows of double crochet and make sure to match it to the length of your other leg. I've officially finished up the second leg hole. So as you can see, both of the lengths on both sides are matching all the way around. Again, I do have a total of 5 rows after the attached crotch chain. So here we go, 5 rows here, 5 rows here, and I've already gone ahead and weaved in all of my ends. So at this point, your shorts are done. They're ready to be worn and styled. And yeah, that's gonna go ahead and wrap up today's tutorial. Happy crocheting.